Level 1. The family story you inherited. Nobody in your family ever said money didn't matter. They said the opposite. Money mattered so much that it shaped every decision anyone ever made. Your grandfather worked 37 years at the same factory. Same parking spot. Same lunchbox. Same route to work. He wasn't chasing a dream. He was surviving a responsibility. Every paycheck already had a destination before it arrived. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, repairs. There was never enough left over to become anything. Only enough to remain. And in your family, remaining was considered success. Your grandmother saved plastic grocery bags. Not because she needed them, because throwing away something useful felt irresponsible. Nothing was wasted. Everything was stretched. Every dollar had to survive longer than it was supposed to. You grew up watching people work incredibly hard and somehow never get ahead. Not because they were lazy. Not because they made terrible decisions. Because nobody had ever shown them another game existed. The goal wasn't wealth. The goal was stability. And stability became the highest ambition anyone could imagine. You absorbed that without realizing it. Children always do. You learned money through observation. The sigh your father made when the electric bill arrived. The way your mother stared at grocery prices for a few seconds longer than everyone else. The way conversations about retirement sounded more like prayers than plans. Nobody told you rich people were evil. But nobody talked about becoming rich either. It wasn't part of the script. It wasn't part of reality. Millionaires were people on television. Athletes. Celebrities. Lottery winners. People from somewhere else. Not people from your street. Not people from your town. Not people with your last name. And so an invisible ceiling formed above your head long before you knew what a ceiling was. You couldn't see it, but it was there. A financial altitude your family had never crossed. A border nobody talked about. A line everyone obeyed. You inherited that line the way you inherited your eye color. Without choosing it. Without noticing it. Without questioning it. For years, it defined the size of your future. Then something happened. Not all at once, but enough to change everything. Level 2. The dangerous thought. The first crack never looks important. It's usually small. Podcast. A book. A YouTube video. A conversation. A random article at 2 in the morning. Something ordinary. But inside that ordinary moment lives a dangerous idea. An idea capable of rearranging an entire life. You discover that wealthy people are not a different species. They're not smarter than everyone else. They're not born with secret information downloaded into their brains. Many of them started with less than you. Some started with nothing. Some started in circumstances worse than yours. And suddenly a question appears. A question your family's story never prepared you for. What if the ceiling isn't real? Not completely. Not permanently. Not for everyone. That thought changes everything. Because the moment you ask it, you can never go back. The old explanation stops working. The old excuses lose power. The old boundaries start looking suspicious. And that's terrifying. People think awakening feels inspiring. Usually it feels disorienting. The rules that governed your life suddenly seem incomplete. You're standing between two worlds. 1 foot in the reality you inherited. 1 foot in the reality you're trying to create. Neither feels fully stable. You start reading obsessively. Personal finance, investing, business, real estate, entrepreneurship, psychology. You discover concepts nobody ever discussed at the dinner table. Compound interest, cash flow, assets, equity, ownership, leverage. Words that sound boring until you realize entire fortunes are built on understanding them. You don't tell many people, because you've already seen what happens when someone tries to escape the script. People become uncomfortable, not because they hate ambition, because ambition forces everyone else to examine their own limits. And most people would rather defend their limits than challenge them. So you stay quiet, you study, you experiment, you dream privately. And for the first time in your life, the future feels larger than the map you inherited. That's exciting. is also lonely. You just don't know that yet. Level 3. The years nobody sees. This is where most people quit. Not because they lack talent, because they underestimate time. Success stories compress years into minutes. Podcast episode, a documentary, a social media post, a 20-minute interview. The listener hears the victory. They don't hear the repetition, the uncertainty, the waiting, the boredom, the failures. You spend years here, years, while almost nobody notices. You work your regular job. Then you work on your future. Weekends disappear. Evenings disappear. Vacations disappear. You become familiar with exhaustion. Not dramatic exhaustion. Functional exhaustion. The kind where you're tired all the time but continue moving anyway. The results don't come immediately. Sometimes they don't come at all. A business fails. An investment loses money. Partnership collapses. An opportunity disappears. A plan that looked perfect on paper produces absolutely nothing in reality. You question yourself constantly. Not once. Hundreds of times. Maybe thousands. You wonder if everyone who doubted you was right. You wonder if you're wasting years chasing something impossible. You wonder if the people who settled down early were smarter than you. Meanwhile, life keeps moving. Friends buy houses. Friends get married. Friends advance in careers. Friends seem happy. And you're still building. Still learning. Still uncertain. Still climbing. The gap between effort and reward becomes almost unbearable. Yet something keeps pulling you forward. Not confidence. Not motivation. Something deeper. The inability to return to the person you used to be. Once you've seen another possibility, pretending it doesn't exist becomes impossible. So you keep going. One day at a time. One decision at a time. One risk at a time. Not because you're fearless. Because stopping would hurt more. Level 4. The first real money. The first breakthrough arrives quietly. Nobody announces it. No confetti falls from the ceiling. No dramatic music plays. You simply notice that something has changed. Maybe your investments hit 6 figures. Maybe your business earns more than your salary. Maybe your net worth reaches a number that once seemed impossible. Whatever it is, it's real. Not theoretical. Not motivational. Real. For the first time, money starts working harder than you do. That's a strange experience. You spent your whole life trading hours for dollars. Now some dollars are creating more dollars without asking your permission. The realization feels almost suspicious. Like you've discovered a hidden law of physics. You don't celebrate much. Mostly because you're scared. Success introduces a new fear. The fear of losing what you've built. The fear of going backward. The fear of discovering it was luck. So you become disciplined. More disciplined than ever. You invest. You learn. You stay focused. The people around you start noticing something. Not necessarily your money. Your trajectory. Your energy. Your habits. The way you're changing. And some relationships begin shifting. Not dramatically. Quietly. The way seasons change. 1 degree at a time. You are becoming someone your old environment wasn't designed to produce. And that creates tension. Even when nobody says a word. Level 5. The $1 million day. Then it happens. Not in a movie. In real life. A random Tuesday. A Wednesday afternoon. A boring Saturday morning. You check the numbers. Then check them again. Then once more. Net worth. Investments. Business equity. Cash. Assets. Liabilities. The math is undeniable. $1 million. Maybe more. The first millionaire your family has ever produced. You expected fireworks. Instead, you get silence. Deep silence. Because nobody prepared you for this moment. There is no family tradition for crossing this line. No inherited wisdom. No handbook. No stories. No examples. You are standing somewhere nobody in your bloodline has ever stood before. And for a few minutes, that realization feels almost surreal. You think about your grandparents. You think about every overtime shift. Every sacrifice. Every compromise. Every dream postponed. Every burden carried. And suddenly the number stops being financial. It becomes historical. This isn't just your achievement. It's a break in a pattern. A new branch on the family tree. A new possibility. A new reality. The ceiling didn't just crack. It disappeared. And yet strangely, the next morning still arrives. The dishes still need washing. Emails still need answering. Life continues. Because becoming a millionaire isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a completely different one. Level 6. The distance. Success creates distance. Not because you want it to, because growth changes perspective. You return home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, family reunions. Everything looks the same streets, the same houses, the same conversations, the same memories. Yet something feels different. You still love these people, maybe more than ever, but your reality no longer matches theirs. The problems that dominate their lives are problems you've solved. The problems dominating your life are problems they can't relate to. Nobody is wrong. Nobody is bad. You're simply living in different worlds. That realization hurts. More than you expected. Because money solves financial problems. It doesn't solve emotional complexity. You discover that success can create isolation. Not because people abandon you. Because fewer people understand what you're carrying. You become careful. Careful about discussing money. Careful about discussing goals. Careful about discussing opportunities. Not out of arrogance. Out of protection. You learn that visibility attracts opinions. And opinions are often expensive. Some friendships drift away. Some relationships deepen. Some people celebrate your growth. Others quietly resent it. You learn to tell the difference. That lesson alone might be worth more than the money. Level 7. The legacy. Eventually you realize something important. The $1 million was never the real achievement. The real achievement was becoming the person capable of creating it. Because money can disappear. Markets crash. Businesses fail. Economies change. But the skills remain. The mindset remains. The knowledge remains. And most importantly, the example remains. Your children will grow up differently. Not spoiled. Not guaranteed success. Just exposed to a larger reality. They won't spend years wondering if wealth is possible. They'll know it is. Because they'll have seen it. They'll have proof. The ceiling that controlled your family for generations will be invisible to them. Not because it never existed. Because you removed it. That's what generational wealth really means. Not money. Possibility. A different starting line. A different set of assumptions. A different understanding of what's achievable. The greatest gift isn't the dollars. It's the belief. The belief that your family belongs in rooms it never imagined entering. The belief that ownership is possible. Investment is possible. Freedom is possible. Building is possible. You become the proof. And proof changes people more than advice ever can. One day your grandchildren may never know how unusual this was. They'll look around and assume opportunity was always available. They'll assume the sky was always open. They'll never see the ceiling. And that's okay. That was the mission. You carried the uncertainty so they wouldn't have to. You carried the risk so they could inherit options. You carried the weight so they could walk lighter. You weren't just building wealth. You were changing the trajectory of an entire bloodline. One decision. One sacrifice. One investment. 1 year. 1 generation at a time. The $1 million was only the milestone. The legacy is the real destination. And that's the moment you finally understand what being the first millionaire in your family's history actually means. Not that you reached a number, but that you permanently changed what your family believes is possible. The ceiling is gone. The sky is open. And everyone who comes after you will begin their journey from a place you spent your entire life trying to reach. That's the victory. That's the responsibility. And that's the story they'll never fully know. Because you lived it for them.